Well, hey, teachers and Kidsmen volunteers and assistants, all of you who serve so faithfully in Kidsmen, we are finally back this coming weekend, and I know that there's a lot of questions that you may have, and so I wanted to put together this short training video for you to get some of those questions answered and to just go through some of the things that would be helpful as reminders to you. You know, the first thing I want to say to you is that even though we've been working so hard to produce content for our kids during the season, during videos, and I can tell you personally, they've been fun and challenging, we do know that the means in which kids learn and grow the best is face-to-face with you as their teachers in a classroom. As you open up the Word of God with them, you read through the stories, you talk through the lesson with them, you engage with them in craft time and all that you do in the classroom. So it is vital that we launch our church back up with Kidsmen, and we need each and every one of you to be fully ready to do that. So I want to go over a few areas with you, and we're going to jump into that now. The first thing I want to cover with you is preparation. Now, I know you know how important this is. Maybe you have taught for 10, 15 years in church with kids, or maybe this is your first time, but preparing for what you have to do in your time is very important. So we want to get you that curriculum early. We want everybody, even if you're not the teacher, to look over that curriculum each week to know what the main focus and topic of the lesson is going to be that week. It's important that you spend time in prayer for your students. And we are also going to be having a corporate time of prayer 30 minutes before each service. So 30 minutes before each service on the weekend, we're going to be gathering together for just really light, brief refreshments and snacks and a time of corporate prayer. And I know that's going to be a little challenging because we have 3 services that are, one of them is really early, 8 a.m. And so we think it's really important to pray. And so we want you guys to come together for that prayer time if you can. But because we have an early 8 a.m. service, I know that some people struggle getting here on time. And because of some of the things we have to do in our classrooms, it's really important that everybody is able to get into their classroom 15 minutes early. We need every teacher, everybody, not just the main teacher, but the assistants and the helpers and the youth volunteers. Everybody needs to be in their classroom ready to receive families 15 minutes prior to the service. So again, this coming weekend, we're going to be at 6:30, we're going to be at 8 a.m., and then we're going to be at 10 a.m. So regardless of your timing, make sure that you are ready to be in that classroom. We'd love it if you can join us for the prayer time, but we need you in those classrooms early. That would be very helpful to us. All right, our next section is our COVID guidelines. That's what we're all here for right now, to learn what we're going to do differently during this season of COVID. So I've got 3 sections here for you. The first one is for you teachers. Now, we need every single one of you to do, before you come in, a pre-check, a self-examination, if it were, to see if there's anything that would make it so that you should not come in. If you have a fever, if you've got a cough, if you're feeling any symptoms of sickness, during this season, we need you to stay home. I know that you want to be here, but if you feel not right the day you're supposed to teach, the day before, please let your coordinator know so that we can replace you in that classroom for that weekend, so we can make sure that we maintain that. So every single week, if you even have a question, if you've got a fever or not, just check yourself before you come in. That is really important. Now, I know some of us don't like this next one, but all the teachers in all the classrooms have to wear their masks. The new guidelines require that all the teachers have to be wearing either a face shield or a mask while they are in the presence of the kids. The only exception to this that we have is when you are teaching in front of your class, as you're more socially distanced, you're allowed to remove that mask so the kids can fully engage with you and your expressions during that time. But when you're up close sitting with kids at tables or engaging them like that, we need you all to be wearing a face shield or a mask. Now, we know that you guys all practice proper sanitation and hygiene, but during the season, we need you to be extra especially careful with your hands and with where you're putting things. So we're going to ask that you use hand sanitizer often, and that we're going to clean surfaces more often. Before the class, when you first get in, we want you to wipe door handles down, common surfaces down, and as you leave the classroom, we want you to do that as well. We're also going to be asking you guys to do some extra cleaning of toys, especially if you're seeing them go into kids' mouths and you see them passing in between. We're going to try to limit that as much as possible. We're also going to attempt, to the best of our ability, to be distanced. Now, for our little ones, that's not possible. We have to be in contact with them. But as the ages go up, we're asking that you use your discernment to stay as distanced as you can. and just limit that physical contact between you and the kids as much as you can. Now, I'm not saying that it all has to stop during this season. We know that some of that is necessary for these kids' development, and we're allowed to do so, but you need to just be careful with that. So use your discernment in how you engage physically with the kids. Now let me tell you what we're doing with the kids in the classroom. Now we're limiting the sizes of kids in classrooms. Their guidelines don't allow us to go over 14 people per classroom or per cohort. So 12 kids and 2 teachers is how it's stated. And we might have the ability, especially in our older classrooms, to combine 2 cohorts or 3 cohorts into one group, but we need to separate everybody. So we are going to be limiting the amount of people that are in the classrooms. That's the one thing that we're doing. And we're also going to be asking the parents to do a self-examination, a self-check, pre-screening check for their kids before they drop them off. Now, we're asking them to do that. We know that might not always take place. So you as teachers need to be on guard as well to see if kids have any symptoms when they're showing up. Now, we're going to trust that parents are doing that. We're not going to question them or take their temperatures out the door, but we are going to just kind of use our discernment and see how kids are feeling. If kids are coughing, if they're sneezing, or they're complaining about aches, or they look flush, that is when you need to pull that kid aside, ask them how they're feeling, then contact your coordinator, come find someone that can come and pull that kid out and just do a simple examination, take their temperature, and then if we need to, we will remove that kid. Our child policy right now is very important. We don't want to have an incident. We have policies to be able to respond to that if we do, but we want to do our best to make sure that we don't have sick teachers or sick kids in the classroom. So please help us with that. For most of our kids, we're saying kindergarten and up, we're going to ask that every child as they come into the classroom has a nice squirt of hand sanitizer that they can sanitize their hands before coming in. Now, we're not going to ask the small kids to do this because we're not sure what they're going to do with their hands, but if they would like it, they can have it. But that's one of the things that we're going to be instituting, is that they have a hand sanitizer as they come into the classroom, and also if they leave, if they would like it. We're going to have that available all throughout the time you're with the kids, so that's something that they can use and partake of. Now, probably the biggest question is the question of masks, and we are doing our best to accommodate everybody, but we know it's not going to be perfect. The CDC guidelines for schools say that children that are in 3rd grade and above are required to wear masks. So we are requiring all of our upstairs kids in our 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade rooms to wear masks the entire time. The only time that they should be able to remove a mask is if they have a health reason, or if we can maintain proper social distancing. For our classrooms upstairs, we're not really able to maintain that distance with the amount of kids that we may have in a classroom, so we're asking them to wear their mask. For the little ones, 2nd grade and below, we're not requiring them to wear masks, but we are encouraging parents, if they feel like they want their kid to wear a mask, we can do that. But we know that in this whole season, this thing is polarizing. There are people on both sides of this situation, including kids that are more fearful. This is something that causes anxiety with both kids and parents. So regardless of what's going on, we want you as teachers to approach every situation with love and with charity, and as Pastor Mike taught recently, with gentleness. We know that there's going to be people on both sides of this, so please do your best to just articulate our simple policies. And if you have any pushback, I don't want you to go out there and have these hard conversations with people. Come and find your coordinator, someone on our Kids Min team, or come find me, or ask for someone to come in. I'd be happy to deal with that. I'm making myself available this coming weekend, and probably in the future for the next few weeks, available in the 150 building in the check-in area for any questions that parents may have. They can come and find me, and I can talk to them about these things. But I want you to know those things, and I want you to respond to them with as much love and grace as you should as a believer. Now, our classroom and our instruction time. A few things for you to know. First of all, we've redone our classrooms. And that means a few things. It means that they're freshly painted, and we've got all kinds of fun decals on the wall and decorations around, and we're really excited, and we want the kids to be excited. We want you to be excited. But we also know that change is hard. It's hard for the kids. It's hard for you as teachers, and so we're trying to get everything in order in your classroom to make it the best of the ability, but we're still in process on a few things in a few classrooms, so be patient with us as we fine tune everything. We get everything you need. If you have needs in your classroom, please let us know. We are intentionally trying to declutter, simplify, have less in each classroom, clean out some of the stuff that was in there that wasn't used often. We're going to try to keep that, maintain that standard. But if there's things that you use and you need, please let us know. We want to be able to give you what you need to appropriately teach your age group that God has called you to teach during this season. So please do that with us. Now, I'm going to make one comment about our nice shelf decorations. They are literally glued down. They can't come off. You can't remove the pencils or the crayons or anything from that. So we've done that intentionally so that there's no hazard for kids doing that. But please just don't use those things on the shelf. We're trying to make the environment something that new families that come to our church, that's really the only thing that they get to experience. They get to see the classroom, the decoration, the decor. They get to see the cleanliness and the organization, and they get to have an interaction with you as a teacher. That's our ability for our first impression with families, and we want to maintain a really high standard with that so that when new families come to our church, they're not grossed out by the dirtiness or the clutteriness in our classroom, but they have a great positive experience with you as a teacher with a great smile on your face and welcoming them, and to know that their kids are going to be safe in a nice, clean, modern environment. Now, this is an important thing for your classroom instruction. During our normal times when we're inside, we do an hour-and-a-half service. Our service right now is shortened, and that means that you're going to have to modify as teachers in your classroom. We're only meeting for an hour, hour and 10 minutes or so per weekend, per service. And so you're going to have to modify your teaching time, your craft time, and we're also not traveling. We're not going to worship time. We're not going to chapel. We're not doing Bible bookstore right now. We're keeping everything contained in the classroom for the time being. Now, we're going to start working on some of those things, seeing what we are able to do and how we can make that work. But for the time being, we need to stay in the classroom. So you're going to have to modify your instruction time to fill up that time and keep it engaging. Now, we're going to help you with that to the best of our ability. We're going to have some worship videos for you on the TVs. We're going to do some verses on the TVs if we can get that for you this weekend, but we will in weekends future. So just be flexible with us as we work around this new modified schedule and kind of find your new groove to how you're going to operate your classroom. All right, now for this last section, just want to cover a few additional safety things. Now, these kind of apply to different areas, but I want to just mention some of these so that we can keep ourselves as safe as we possibly can during the season. One of those things is, again, the physical distancing. Use your discernment and know when it is appropriate to distance and when it is not. The next thing I want to cover is snacks. For the little ones and feeding time for infants, we know that needs to happen. As the kids get older, as they're in elementary school, we want to take the snack away, that snack time away. So for the younger ones, we could do that, but we're going to limit eating and not allow eating with our elementary and older kids. Another thing that's really important is our restroom use. Now, we are going to set apart the common restrooms in the 150 building just for our kids ministry. So as you take a group of kids, that's not going to be used by adults and by kids. That's just going to be for kids. So we're asking that those restrooms are only used by kids and only children go in there. And so what that's going to mean is we want, if younger kids are using the restroom, we don't even want edgers in there with them, the 5th and 6th graders. If young kids are using the restroom, that they're to be in there by themselves. Now, of course, we need to stand at the door and monitor and make sure everything's going okay, but that those restrooms are just for them. In the 120 West building, where the 1st and 2nd grade and kindergarten classes are, and Compass Friends, these restrooms are going to be used also by the weekend service people out on the patio. So we need to make sure that there is no adults in the restroom when the kids are going in the restroom. We might have to wait with our kids as adults leave the restroom. We might have to have adults wait as we have kids in the restroom. But we want to make sure that that policy of making sure that there is no adults in restrooms with children alone is maintained. So please do a good job at being vigilant on that area as kids use the restroom. Now, again, it's a shorter service, so we're hoping that we are going to limit bathroom breaks. So keep an eye on the clock, and if you can have a kid maintain until the end of the service, that's going to be ideal, especially if you're in this 120 West building. That will be very, very helpful for us. And the final thing on this is just kind of an encouragement for you. I know everybody's got different opinions on where we're at during this crisis. We want to, again, use as much charity as possible and be careful with our enforcement of our policies. While we want to maintain these as best as possible, we want to do so in the right manner. So if kids don't have their masks on perfectly, we just need to be overly kind, overly gracious with them as we're kind of in learning together. For our older kids, you can communicate early on in class exactly what those things are supposed to look like for them. And then finally, for our older kids, our 5th and 6th graders, because we have to maintain these cohorts according to our guidelines, we are going to check our kids in like normal, but when our kids go to their group time at their tables, especially in Edge, we're going to have sheets printed out where the kids can write their name so we know which group they're in case there is a potential incident in our church. So if you can maintain those policies, we're going to write these out for you as well. And again, I am available to talk about any of these things. I'll be available at prayer time, before and after. During the service, I'll come check in with all of you during the service, make sure everything is clear. And please feel free to reach out to me or your coordinators for the weekend as we are going to launch back up. This is an exciting time, and I know this is a training video and it's not that exciting, but is exciting to get back on campus and have our kids here. So study hard, pray hard for these kids, and be excited when they come in. They have been waiting for this for months. I know they love this church. I know you love this church, and so let's make this experience for our kids the best possible experience that they can have, and we will see you this weekend.